Welcome to Soundbreaker. In today's episode, we're talking to Hazel Savage, who is a founder of Music Tech Lifer, guitarist, a former CEO, and a co-founder of Museo. Thank you for joining us today. And for our listeners who might not be familiar with you, could you please give us just a little bit of background and introduce yourself before we really dive into it and get really interesting?
Absolutely. Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much for having me. So if anyone hasn't met me or doesn't know me, my name is Hazel Savage. I'm currently the Vice President of Music Intelligence at SoundCloud because I sold my company to SoundCloud in 2022. I'm British. I live in the UK. I'm from the north of England. Anyone who hears my accent and who knows the UK will be able to tell. I've been working in music and music tech my whole life, pretty much.
Amazing. Great, short but to the point introduction. Hazel, do you mind taking us a bit back to your teenage years? What really got you interested, I would say, in two things? In the music, was it influenced by your parents, your mom, dad, or just really something you find a passion for when you were young? And you're still young, but I'm talking about teenage years.
Yeah.
And what got you also into tech? Was it something also you were passionate about or you adapt or developed later?
I can sort of take it all the way back to being, I'll have been 12 years old because I got my first guitar for my 13th birthday. And I remember I was talking to my brother, who's a year older than me, and he was saying, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have a guitar? And I was thinking, yeah, it would be really cool. So I asked if I could get a guitar for my 13th birthday. And my parents have always been super supportive and super amazing. So, of course, they said yes. And I did. So that was when I got my first guitar. And I think my way into the music industry was really as a performer, as a musician, as a wannabe rock star. That was always my goal. I wanted to be a rock star, and that kind of is what turned into the career for me. And then I think on the tech side, it was really, growing up, if you'd have asked me when I was 16, I'd have said, I want to work at EMI and I want to be in A&R. But I think that when I was coming up in music, it was like right around that time of change where things shifted and democratized, and the iPhone came out, which was huge in terms of how we consumed music. And so
Yes.
really, I was just fortunate that that was the time period in which I was working, and that's where the opportunities were. And I think for someone like myself, I'm in that sort of that category of like, I'm young enough to have been a digital native. Like I had my first computer when I was 11. So
Mhm.
technology feels very second nature, but I'm old enough to remember not having a mobile phone and not having the internet everywhere. So I think I'm just a very fortunate age, born in the right time.
Amazing. Amazing. We're gonna start talking about your career. And you work for HMB. Let's talk about this for a bit. That's, one of the well-known worldwide brick
Yeah.
and mortar, as they say, stores that sell I'm sorry, not digital, physical music CDs, cassettes, vinyl, DVDs, and all of that.
Yeah.
What was your role there at HMV?
So I started at HMV
Yeah.
while I was at university. I just got it as like a part-time job, right? Everyone,
Wow.
everyone needs money to go out
Yes.
shopping and buy guitars.
So you work in the store, actually, in the actual store at HMB. Oh, amazing. Okay.
So I probably got that job. I think I'll have been 18 maybe, and
Uh-huh.
I used to work every Saturday and every Sunday, which are
Yeah.
obviously the busiest shopping days. And so I would work in the store Saturday and Sunday, and I was one of the people who, when we shut the shutters at 4 p.m. on a Sunday night, tidy the shop, put the CD singles up on the wall ready for sale on Monday morning. And I did that for my second and third year at university. And then when I finished university, I just went and spoke to my manager and I was like, can I have a full-time job? Can I work
Wow.
here full time? Because I was a good worker. I was a hard worker. But also I didn't really have a direction of anything else I particularly wanted to do. I wasn't into sort of didn't really know about like graduate programs, or like I wasn't going to go work in finance. So I just was like, can I go full time? And I did, and I got a transfer down to a store in London. as well. So that was when I graduated. So I think I'll have been 21. So yeah, that was how I started. Just kind of got a part-time job and then turned it into a full-time job.
Amazing. But you learn so much by being interacting with clients or customers and learning about the physical aspect of the music business. Then you went to work for Shazam. So how did that transition right away to Shazam? And what was your position there? What, and how did it influence by you being there? Like, how did you going from physical to digital?
Yeah, I think I what the whole time I was working in at HMV, I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. Like I'm still friends with some of the people I worked in that store with,
Yeah.
and I it was such a great experience and one that doesn't really exist anymore. So I feel grateful to have been able to work in physical retail. But I did know as soon as I moved to London, I was like, I would like to get out of a customer facing role because
Yes.
it's quite stressful serving customers all day every day. They're not always the politest. So I think I was keeping an eye out and I was looking around for how do I transition from like a retail role into a kind of an office or an industry type role. And I was
Yeah.
just applying and I was just looking for everything that came up, and this is pre LinkedIn as well. And I remember I just saw this job for Shazam, which I had heard of, but it was a very, very small UK only startup at the time.
Hmm.
And I sent my CV off, and I was just very, very lucky that my then boss, Mr. Allen, who was reviewing the CVs, had previously worked at HMV, and he told me afterwards when he hired me, he said as soon as he saw HMV on my CV, he was like, "Oh, she'll be a laugh. She'll be a good laugh."
What
So
year was it? So that was a transition. Is it before the physical era or towards the end of the physical era to digital?
you know what? I was at HMV for about 4.5 years altogether, and that was
Yeah.
like partly into my university. So I think yeah, I started at Shazam in 2007. So
Okay. Okay. That was like it started already. Yes. We kind
I
of in
still
that era. Yeah.
the first iPhone came out 2008. So I think
Yes.
I'd been at Shazam about a year and a half, and then
Hmm.
we suddenly switched from being a really small UK only company where you had to like ring a number to get the Shazam
Yes.
to being like it's one of the top apps on the iPhone globally. And
Digital
so
music.
that's when
Yes.
it really started to take off as a business.
And I'm sure it influenced your career in the music tech. You started to think like, okay, what's ahead? What's next?
Yeah, well,
And
I really enjoyed it. Like, I really enjoyed working at Shazam. It was smart people. It
yeah,
was efficient. We got shit done really quickly. We used all the best tools, and
amazing.
it just worked. The culture was good. The business was good, and I absolutely loved it. And it was a culture of like respect as well. So I
Hmm.
absolutely loved it. But I did get headhunted straight after Shazam to go and work for Universal. And I felt like I couldn't turn that down because that had kind of always been the dream. I'd always wanted to
Yes,
work at a major label, right?
correct. That short lived though. You didn't stay there long. I
No,
think for
it's
how.
and as I say, this goes back to your original question about why tech.
Yes.
I used to work for Universal, and I got there, and I was just like horrified by like how backward all the business practices were. I often tell this really hilarious story. Don't think I've ever told it on recording before, but it was when Lady Gaga's like album had just come out, and
Hmm.
I had people going, Hazel, this has to go up on the website right now. We need the news up. And oh my God. So, I was getting yelled at in every corner. And I sort of asked her label manager, where's the hero image? Where's the big photo? You don't have that, okay. Ask the PR team. They didn't have it, and I was like, why is there not like a central repository of images for this record label that we can all access worldwide? And I ended up screenshotting it off Billboard's website and uploading it to the Universal website because that was quicker or
Yes.
easier than finding the image internally that no one seemed to be able to help me with. And I just thought, wow, this is badly run. Um,
Hmm.
this doesn't work. And so I kind of only stayed there for a year, a myriad of reasons, but all kind of underpinned by this is not a company that is tech forward. This is not a company that welcomes innovation at this time, I will say. And I was in the
Yes,
Australia office, and I just thought there wasn't that culture of respect that you get
got
in
it.
technology as well. And there
Hmm.
wasn't that culture of innovation. So I just kind of realized, like, oh, yeah, it was always a dream to work here. But now I'm here, I know that actually these other companies are better to work for. And I went back into music tech, and that was it for me.
You went to Pandora, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So there was I did have a short stint in between at the Australian Chamber Orchestra, which I
Oh,
loved as well. Classical music people are
yes.
just the best, so welcoming. And yeah, I was part of the team that launched Pandora Internet Radio in Australia and
Amazing.
and again, loved it because it was that really fantastic intersection of music and technology. Really brilliant company, brilliant culture. Loved it.
To me, it sounds like a natural progression. You gain so much experience and knowledge. You compact it in yourself. All this knowledge, all this experience, literally, like you got yourself ready to start your own music tech startup. You learn the whole business,
Yeah.
whether it's from the retail aspect and from the physical to digital, then to the major. And you saw there's so much pushback from major labels
Mm,
to be advanced in technology for whatever reasons
yeah.
it is. Probably they were making so much money and they don't like the digital world.
Yeah.
And then you moved on to Pandora, and also you learned every aspect of it. And would that pushed you to kind of motivated you to, obviously you are an entrepreneur, by learning all of that and pursuing your dreams and doing what you wanted to do, starting Museo. And what
Yeah.
really pushed you, what influenced you and made you like, you know what, I gotta do this.
Well, it all helped because I always
Yes.
say there was something in all of my jobs, whether it was
Yes.
working at HMV when I was like 19 and
Yeah.
understanding that all new music came
Yeah.
out Monday morning
Yeah.
on a CD single
Yeah.
or a cassette, and right the way through to how Pandora did their recommendations with the Music Genome Project,
Hmm.
understanding elements of a song can create perfect recommendations. So there was
Hmm.
kind of insights at every single job I did to kind of understand that this is what works well. This is what you can and can't do in the industry. And I think I just always thought that I would quite like to start my own company. But I just wasn't really sure, earlier on, while I was at Shazam or while I was at Pandora, I didn't really have an idea. I didn't really have a focus of what I wanted to work on. So I kind of had to wait for those pieces to fall into place. But yeah, when it did, it all came together perfectly. And there's elements of every other job that I've had that I got to bring to Museo. So yeah, it kind of all, when you look back at it, it goes, oh, that looks like a very clear path. But I definitely didn't.
It wasn't planned. It wasn't planned.
No.
Yes. Got it. Yes. Amazing. And well, I guess that's the path of entrepreneur. Things not planned, but somehow entrepreneurs seems to always take the right path, without knowingly so.
Yeah, there's a bit of luck in there, right? As well,
Yes.
like a little
Yes.
bit of luck and a little bit of charm, and
Yes.
and then just figuring out that because I always remember this right from the point of putting together my first CV, and I
Yeah.
was just like, I remember like looking at it, thinking like, all I've got on there is HMV shop. Like how is that a CV I can send to a label or I can send to anyone? And then I was like, but I'm always so busy. So, like, why don't I have anything to put on my CV? And I said, you know what? Because I play in a band, right? So I'm a musician. I play live. We do recordings. I help other bands out with their websites. I also flyer for a local nightclub that has a rock night, and I
Hmm.
manage their VIP ticketing. And I
Yeah.
do, and then I also write for this like fanzine locally. And I was like, when you start to put all these things together, and put all those things on a CV. Plus, I work in a record store, and that's how I earn my money. Now I was like, I can actually start to see a career here. I
Yes.
am building towards something, even if
Yes.
I didn't realize I was doing it.
Yes. Can you tell us a bit about Museo and what makes it stands out, from the traditional methods?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always described ourselves as an artificial intelligence company for the music industry. And really what we're doing is we're giving you sort of 20 to 30 pieces of metadata per song, per track, that are everything apart from the artist and title. So if Shazam gives you the name of the song and the artist, we give you everything else: the BPM, the key, the genre, the mood, the instruments, the recording quality. All of these are the factors that are really important pieces of information that you would want to know about a track, and that previously either might just have not existed or might have to have been done manually, which is
So anything for our viewers and listeners. So anything is you will give you beside not the metadata, like the composer, writer, date of origin, and style of music.
so we call the Museotech, we call it like the rich metadata. And anyone who's listening to this can try it for themselves if they just go
Yeah,
to museo.com. We have a free demo where you can drop in a SoundCloud link or a YouTube link or upload an MP3, and we'll show you the data that you would get. So anyone can try it, and we have
yeah,
a list of all the categories, and a list of all the words that we're able to tag. So this is kind of what we built, and we just trained the AI to be able to spot these things. Show an AI 2000 rock songs, and then the next time you show it a song it's never seen that matches the patterns of the 2000 you've shown it, it can be like, that's a rock song. And so that kind of automation, and this was really built off the back of the idea that if at the time in 2018 when we started, Spotify was saying, there are 60,000 new songs a day uploaded to the platform. And I was like, oh, 60,000, that's a lot. That's more than I used to put on the shelves once a week in HO.
yes,
And
yeah.
so really I was thinking, how does anyone ever know what they have? How does anyone ever manage that volume of data? So that's kind of just really where the idea came from.
I'm surprised they didn't buy it. They don't
Well,
like say, "Hey,
I always say about Spotify, they'd previously they'd bought the Echo Nest in 2014, and
yeah,
then they bought another company called Nyland in 2017, who were probably earlier versions or precursors to what we were doing. So I said, like, they might be the only one not interested in buying us, but I like the sound of that market.
wow." So basically, Museo gives you the genre and the subgenre of that song,
Yep.
the BPM,
Yep. Anywhere
and
between 1 and 4 genres.
yeah,
So, if it is a rock song, that's great, but also it might have a subgenre of indie rock or, country or electronic. There could be any number of subgenres. And we also give you a percentage. So after the genre, you'll see a number in brackets on the demo. And that's how confident the AI is that that tag is correct. So it
wow.
might be like 99% sure that rock is right, 70% indie rock, and maybe 40% electronic. And this gives our customers the ability to say, you know what, don't show anything under 50%. You know what, only show me the top number one result with the highest score. And then we have other clients who might be creating a database of music for searching that go, everything, include everything, all of this helps, no matter how much it's predominantly a rock song and it's only got a slight electronic sound, and we still want that included.
This is also great for companies who have back catalogs, and they need to kind of re-release it, organize it. Can they put the whole catalog through this technology through
Absolutely.
SoundCloud? Uh huh.
Absolutely. And we currently do it to the volume of about 5 million tracks a day
Woo!
globally.
Wow.
However, if someone comes to us and they go, we've got a back catalogue of 50,000 songs, that would be a lot of manual work, but that's a day or two's work for us
Hmm.
using the technology. So it's a really great way as well for companies that have these large back catalogues that want to be able to monetize them and do better, because that's kind of their IP, their asset. It kind of gives them more data to hopefully
Correct.
get more value out of the catalog.
I mean, this kind of metadata, beside the original metadata, all of it together, it's really needed. Just a quick question, not to go off the grid, just what do you think the solution? There is a problem with metadata right now in the
Yeah,
industry. I'm not talking about just the genre, what do you develop? No, I'm talking about writer,
yeah,
composer,
yeah,
artist, title, date of origin, and well, language. I mean, but again, like there's certain, the main basic metadata, the
yeah,
basic,
yeah,
which some of it includes comes out of your AI Museo, which is the style of music, genre, subgenre, and BPM, and all of that. But the main thing always, who's the writer, who's the composer, who's the publisher, and there's always it's a bit of a mess, I think, right
Mm,
now.
mm.
Do you agree?
Yeah, and I think you've stumbled on one of the, or you've found one of the biggest problems there, or not one of the biggest problems, but certainly a problem that needs addressing. And I think I've seen some cool stuff in this space who are working on addressing this. So, for example, there's a really cool um, app called, or I shouldn't say it is an app, but it's also a website, and I think it's called Sessions. And it's
Sessions.
yeah, Sessions, and it's basically integrated into all the audio recording software. And the idea is it's almost like when you go into a recording studio as a songwriter or a producer or as a session musician or whoever, you scan the QR code and it instantly logs your contribution to the track. And so the idea that once you're in the room, it's not too late, but that is the time at which that data needs to be captured, right? Because we all remember the old days of really
And
detailed
and
sleep.
where's that data? Where is that data
So the
stays?
company Sessions, I believe they're based in Sweden. It's actually Bjorn from ABBA. It's his
Oh,
company.
Bjorn from ABBA.
Yeah,
Yes,
Bjorn,
yes.
Bjorn has backed this company, and the founder's a guy called Nicholas Melinda. Obviously, Bjorn is a songwriter, Nicholas is a songwriter. They identified the need to capture this data at the point at which it's created. And so I love it when I see, I'm not saying this is the one solution to fix it all, but I think what they identified was it's so much harder to go back over a recording session, and if Beyonce's worked with 9 writers and whoever else has been in and out of the studio. So if you
Hmm.
capture it at the point of recording, that can really set you up for success. And so I
And
think,
it cannot be changed. This information cannot be. That's it. It's done once.
well, that's it. And I think obviously per song and per interaction, it doesn't have to be, sort of, oh, if I work with this person, this is how the split right works all the time. But maybe it does. But just the idea that you can capture that information in the studio, and it can be, as I say, you're scanning the QR code on the laptop where the songs are being recorded, and
Yeah.
it's storing that information with the recordings, which I think is really powerful. So I think there's something very, it's not the sexy part of the industry, is it? It's not the rock and roll glamour, but I think
Yes.
capturing that information really
Now
early
you're
on.
talking about now copyright protection in that because it's and that would change. Would that get rid of some of the old methods, DDEX, ISRC codes?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think, and I sort of I like DDEX in that it's the sort of closest thing we have to like an open source resource that everyone
But
is
it's still separated. The ISRC code. It's. But what are you saying? It's one piece together.
yeah,
It's
well,
something.
I think I more meant with DDEX. It's I rarely run into someone who's like, I hate DDEX, I won't use it. Most people have bought into it somewhat, which I think gives it a really good opportunity, because that was going to follow into my second point, I think, which is, I think part of the challenge is, people have been saying it for years, like, wouldn't it be so cool if you could get licensing and royalties on the blockchain? Because then it can't be changed. It would be
Yes.
recorded and it would be a permanent database. But I think the problem is there's still too many players trying to build the same thing. There's still too many people who, if Universal build it, Sony don't want to use it. If Sony build it, Universal don't want to use it. Um, as an outsider, able to build that and get all of the major companies to buy in. It's not a technology problem. It's a stakeholder management problem.
So you're saying there's people making money with this. They want to keep that mess, that chaos, because there's a lot of money being made and not being accounted for.
Well, they're so keen to not work together. You start to suspect that must be the case, don't you?
Yes. Maybe a silly question or not. What led to the selling of Museo? I was like, Bob, obviously the money was a good, but
Money was great. But well, that's always part of it. If the offer wasn't right, there would be no sale. But really, it was more focused on SoundCloud had actually been a client for about a year and a half at the time at which we sold to them. And we'd had multiple offers from clients throughout the life of the business, people who were using the tech and going, well, this is great. This is really helpful. What about if we had this in house? So we used to get asked this question quite a lot. And, you never know quite how seriously to take it. Are they just asking? Are they going to make an offer? Who knows? But I think with SoundCloud, the thing that, so part of it was that, they had already used the tech. They knew they liked it. They could see the value of bringing it in house. So that made sense to me. But the other part of it was, I always say, like, when on our own, we were a tech company. We were a good tech company, but we were just a tech company. We didn't own a catalog. We didn't license music. We weren't a label who were then able to promote music. We were like, give us your catalog, we'll sort it and give it back. That was a very simple function. But we knew that if we partnered with someone who had a catalog,
Yes.
had 345 million songs,
Yes.
and then also had the ability to either do JV label partnerships or had those direct deal partnerships, that's great. Now we can use our data to create great playlists and they can get published on SoundCloud, whereas we weren't the publisher before and we weren't the owner of the catalog. So the idea really was, when I looked at it, is we can probably do more together than we can do separately. And that was the real motivation behind it.
Interesting. Can we talk about playlisting? Is it something part of the past, or it is kind of at that point?
Great question. I still think playlisting is important. And I
It
think
is.
it's important because, music streaming is still the predominant way that people like to enjoy music. It's still the majority of Gen Z, and anyone who's listening to music is probably consuming it via Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify Music, and so SoundCloud, of course. So therefore, if the predominant way of listening is still via these streaming services, then the predominant way of packaging up the thing for them to listen to is via a playlist. I think it's changed slightly away from the kind of the early days of streaming services where you just
Yeah.
have a celebrity or a taste maker,
Yeah.
and being on their specific playlist was the thing. Oh, I got the little AI thumbs up. But I do. So it might not be that you need those celebrity editorial playlists, and people might expect a bit more that one-on-one. So
Yes.
your, whether it's your weekly discovery or your hot mixes coming and that's in your library, your own playlists. I don't think that the playlisting isn't important, but
Because now there's AI involved in it, you know.
then and it's
Yes.
changed because people want that. I love this playlist, and it was built just for me. It's based on my previous tastes, my previous listening experience, and
Yes.
this is how I'm going to discover new music. So I think it's changed shape slightly, but I think it's still important.
Interesting. You worked in physical, you went to digital, you made your own company, you sold it, and then you part of the package and you went and you're working for SoundCloud and you work for a major label. You've seen it all. You kind of developed a crystal ball for what is next. What's the future of consuming content, consuming music? Is it based on the way we communicate? Because our cell phones, smartphones, iPhones, that became the way to communicate, to listen, to consume content. Visual, whether it's videos or movies, or listening to music, audio. So what do you think the future? Because you saw chains of physical stores, billions of dollars, all types, whether it's Virgin, HMV, FYE, Sam Goody, you name it, so many, Tower, and all of that, vanished. They never existed before. Gone.
Yeah.
And from everything, all the chains of jobs they had with them, new jobs were created. And now, I think from now to the next 5 years, there will be a new wave. That's my own opinion, consuming content. Do you have an idea? How would it be? What would it be?
I have some ideas. I don't know if I have the definitive idea, but I think the thing I always try and remember and sort of stay true to is that, yes, the industry has changed from those physical retail to at first downloads, And this is
Yes.
wild. Like, I don't think they revealed it at the time, but the year that I worked for Universal Music, 75% of all their revenue came from Apple, from music downloads, from 99-cent download per song. And it was like, at the time, everyone thought, oh, that is the new industry. It's MP3s. And then
Yes.
music streaming, that sort of rental model came out of, everything you could ever listen to for $10 a month. And so I think even though that format changes, the concept of music fandom and how much people love music doesn't
Yeah.
seem to change. Like, especially even if it's in an economic downturn or a cost of living crisis, people don't go, okay, well, we need to tighten our belts, so I'm going to stop listening to music. In the same way that people might say, I'm going to tighten my belt, so I'm going to delete my Disney Plus and my HBO Max, but I'm going to keep my Netflix. People don't say, they can still go to YouTube and listen for free. They can still switch the radio on in their car, and there isn't a direct monetary transaction that's happening right there. So people don't stop listening to music based on their financial circumstances. Music, it to me, is a given, and I
Yeah.
always used to say to all of my investors, I also believe it's a recession-proof commodity, because people do not give up music when times are tough. If anything, they lean into music when times are tough. So I may not have the perfect crystal ball into, okay, if we went from retail to download to streaming to question mark, I may not know the exact format that it's coming up in next, but I think I'm always looking for that through thought of, people just love music, and if they love
Hmm.
music, they're going to want
Yes.
to experience music.
Yes.
And so,
Absolutely.
so I look for ideas that have that at their core.
Interesting. As a female music tech founder, and how did you navigate, succeed in a male dominated industry?
Yeah, good
This
question.
is this is for all the female entrepreneurs listeners who wants to probably take your footsteps, going to be inspired by this amazing interview, and they're going to be like, you know what? She did it. Yes, there is a path. We could do it. We can make it happen.
It totally is possible. If I can do it, I
Yes.
know for sure that other brilliant women absolutely
Yeah.
can. I think I've been fortunate in some respects that, because I built my company and I raised money in Singapore, and I don't
In
have any
Singapore.
in Singapore. I lived in Singapore for 6 years.
Amazing. Love
Six
Singapore.
that I built the company. I did not. Um, I don't have any like horror stories of like raising money of either people dismissing me. I don't know if it's like I am quite an extrovert character. I almost don't really care what people think, if or what they think of me if I'm pitching, and I almost in some ways would just probably instantly dismiss them in my own head if they were uninterested in me because I am a female founder. But there was the odd funny story. I always say, myself and my co-founder Aaron, who's a Swedish guy, we're about the same age. We did walk into an investment meeting once, and they looked at us both and they went, "Are you married?" And I said, "Yeah, not to each other." Because he has his wife, I have my husband. So I would always just joke and play with it. Like,
Yes.
questions like that aren't really going to catch me off guard. Maybe that's
Yes.
training of working in the music industry that gives me that slightly thicker skin.
Amazing.
But I was just fortunate. I didn't really have any horrific experiences. But I think more than anything now, I notice that there just aren't so many female founded companies. And especially now that since I sold my company, I invest in other companies. And of the four companies I've invested in, 50%, so two of the four, have female founders, right?
Yeah,
I'm
that's my next question. I
Yeah,
want to know what motivated you. How, and it's funny that I interviewed almost everybody, Jessica, the
yeah,
guys
yeah.
from, yes, it's just amazing. And I want you to tell me, how did you catch these companies? They came to you, you come out. What attracted you actually to invest in Audio Shake, Unheard, Master Channel, Clique? I'm very interested. What was the motivation for you to get involved? And obviously, you got involved at an early stage, really early, where you probably got a good amount of equity in each of these companies.
Well, I think it was just purely my decision that now that I've sold my company and I'm in the financial position where I
Allows
can,
you to invest. Yes.
why wouldn't I? What a great thing to do to support these other great ideas that I see coming. And
Mhm.
then really the only things I'm looking for, taking Audio Shake as an example, is
Great.
um, does the tech do something cool that I haven't seen before? And so with source separation, I felt like many people had talked about this before, but I'd never really seen it working. It was always kind of like, oh, it's a great idea, but in reality, it didn't work. Jessica and her co-founder had built something that worked. And then
Yes.
secondly, I just thought she was amazing. I met her and I was like, and then I found out she'd been like VP at Google in comms for
Well,
like
she's a great communicator also.
years, and I was just like,
Y-
oh,
Yeah.
I think she'll be successful no matter what.
Yes.
I just had
Yes.
that feeling about her.
You
So,
did. You
for
did.
me, that's all I'm looking for. A founder that I think, yep, they got this. Then a tech where I go, yep, this works. And so that's kind of all I'm looking for as a very early stage investor. And the same with Master Channel. The tech was great. The founders are great. The same with Unheard. The tech was
Yes.
great, the founders great. So that's kind of all I'm looking for as a very early stage investor.
What about Clique? It's a bit different. It's out of the
It
music industry,
it
kind of.
is a bit different. And normally
Yes.
I would say, it's not music industry, it's probably not for me. But I got a cold message on LinkedIn and from the female founder, and I was just instantly so impressed with her, with Nicola. Because she's already on her second business. She's previously sold a successful business in the beauty space, and I was
Mm.
like, that's so impressed. I know how hard it is to sell a company, so I'm already impressed. And then, when she messaged me about the amount of traction that they had, the amount of signups and the amount of users, and I thought, it's not music, but I can see the use case within music, like the communities that grow up in
Hmm.
music, whether it's on Discord or Twitch or SoundCloud
Yes.
or on Clique. The idea that the younger generation, the Gen Z, and I'm a millennial, the idea that they like an online space to gather, that they meet people online with similar interests, and sometimes
Yes.
that turns into a meeting in reality. And especially as we were coming out of the off the back of the pandemic, I thought, yeah, there's a bunch of people there who missed a couple of years of social interaction, and I think this app is helpful and
Mm.
needed. So that was kind of what attracted me. Again, loved the founder, or founders, I should say, and also just saw the idea and thought, that is a banging idea. Like,
Amazing. I mean, and you're still looking for more opportunities, more startups.
I always keep an eye out. Always keep an eye out. Haven't got anything
New or interesting yet.
on my radar yet, but that's you go through ebbs and flows with these things. So I just
Yes.
I just keep an eye out.
Amazing. What misconceptions do you face when discussing AI integration and digital transformation with music catalog owners?
So I think the funny thing about this is, when we first started Museo in 2018,
Yes.
there was a lot of backlash. People didn't understand AI at all. They weren't interested. They didn't see how this would add value to their business in any way, shape, or form. And it was a real struggle to even get our foot in the door to kind of explain to people what we did. I would say that, and I'm sure you've seen this, the explosion of interest in AI in the last 12 months has meant that all those doors are now wide open. Doors that we were trying to, knock and push at before to have a conversation, now everyone wants to have that conversation. So we kind of, it's now easier than ever to have those conversations about AI. But I do think that the music industry is also at a bit of an inflection point, because it hasn't decided how to, or it's still working through how it handles generative AI. So how do you handle and how do you monetize models that have been built on data that's copyrighted and hasn't been
Yes.
remunerated correctly? And I think what's kind of wild to me is I go, when we built our company, I did deals with three separate companies to get the first million tracks we needed to build our first model, because
Oh,
I was like, of course anyone can scrape the internet for all of the
yeah.
music, but that's illegal. It always has been. That's not your content. And I think most people that I meet these days, I meet very few people who think you should just be allowed to use whatever you want without paying for it. So I feel like the industry is mostly in alignment on remunerating artists correctly, and attribution and sharing the profit of any successes. But we are right in the middle of that at the minute, and it's still, a lot of it is still being figured out. So but yeah, having conversations about AI, I think it's easier than ever.
Amazing. I definitely enjoyed this interview. Really amazing. Anything you would like for our viewers and listeners you want to promote, you want to mention a new project and new function coming up, or for Museo, or anything that you get involved with people, for our listeners and viewers and everybody to look for, to kind of go look at it, search, whatever. Please promote.
Yeah.
Feel free.
By all means, I think, you can check out the Museo by SoundCloud website, which is just musiiio.com. You can try the free AI tagging demo. We also now offer the ability to basically tell you the best 30 seconds of any song. So anyone who's looking for TikTok or short form video automation, that's a new feature that we just launched. And anyone who wants to get in touch with me directly, I'm always interested in new startups, new ideas, new technology. And I'm just Hazel Savage on LinkedIn.
That's it. Hazel Savage on LinkedIn. That's how I reached out. Absolutely. So everybody can. If you have an idea, if you have a new startup, please do. Well, first, I want to say thank you for joining us today. And this concludes today's episode of Soundbreaker. Please make sure to follow us on social and stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share the Soundbreaker podcast. And if you are joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.